London Uncovered. As we are diving onto a new episode, and today we are talking about falling out of love. Yes, they say everyone falls in love somewhere, sometime. For falling in love with someone is a wonderful, miraculous feeling. When we are in love, we can't stop thinking about this person. We want to spend every moment with him or her, and we feel so happy. But sometimes people fall out of love. And even though they once felt so deeply passionate about this person, these feelings can fade away and disappear. So why do people fall out of love? Here are some reasons. Lack of communication, feeling invisible, magnifying insecurities, boredom sets in. Attraction is gone, holding on to grudges, dishonesty. No one wants to compromise anymore. The fairy tale is over, and that their love wasn't real love. So what can one do about it? Here are some tips given by experts. Speak to a therapist. Communicate with your partner about your feelings. Maintain friends and hobbies. And above all, don't make your partner the sole source of your emotional fulfillment. Mario Puzo in his book Fools Die says it brutally. Love is like a red toy wagon you get for Christmas or your 6th birthday. It makes you deliriously happy and you just can't leave it alone. Sooner or later the wheels come off. Then you leave it in a corner and forget it. Falling in love is great, but being in love is a disaster. So let's go and see what people have to say about it. Tell us, why do people fall out of love?
People fall out of love because the person that they thought they fell in love with, they realize they don't actually love the person as much.
So what can one do about it?
Well, if you fall out of love and you know you've fallen out of love with that person, make sure that person's aware. Otherwise, you could be in an unhealthy relationship.
What message would you give to the world?
Make sure you tell the person that you fell in love with before that you've fallen out of love with them.
Olivia, thank you once again. Tell us, why do you think people fall out of love?
So for me, I think that there's different reasons and there's various reasons, but in most situations, again, not necessarily the best position to give this advice, but it's just from my perspective and my worldview. People fall out of love due to unmet needs, and sometimes these needs could be anything from unrealistic expectation before you stepped into something, and when your expectations have not been met, you then get disenfranchised, and then the possibility of falling out of love then happens. So I think in most cases it's unmet expectations, and I'm not even going to go into talking about what a realistic expectation is or what it isn't, but yeah, so in my opinion I think that's why people fall out of love.
So what can one do about it?
Well, I think I kind of touch on it a bit. I would always say, first and foremost, expectations. Know yourself, understand yourself, and know what you need from yourself, and then what you need from someone else, and make sure that you select the right person that would give you what you expect. And that's one. Secondly, communication. This is the purpose of dating. When you're dating with someone, you're not just dating for the sake of dating. You're dating because you know yourself. It's more like an interview, both of you interviewing each other. So it's making sure that during that process you'll understand what you need, and you'll understand what your expectations are, and the other person understands it, and making sure that you know that they can provide and they can meet your expectations, so that way that you don't end up in a situation whereby expectation has not been met, but you didn't really understand what your expectation was in the first place, or your partner or so-called partner didn't really know that was an expectation. You just sprung it up on them. So the only thing I can say about that is that make sure your expectation is very clear, and make sure that the person you're with when you're selecting are the right person to meet that expectation. So you focus on your needs and not just get blown away by, oh my god, I really like the way she walks, I like her hair, blah blah blah. Those things are great, but beyond that, once you're in a relationship with someone, those things wouldn't matter that much. What would really matter is, are my expectations being met? How do I feel when I'm around them? What do they do for me? What can I do for them? So yeah, so managing expectations and ensuring that you understand your expectation, and selecting a partner who you think stands the best chance of meeting your expectation, and vice versa as well, obviously.
So what's your message to the world?
So my message to the world is, pick carefully, and take your time, and to both know yourself, understand yourself, and don't settle for less.
Tim, that was brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tell us, why do people fall out of love?
I don't think people do fall out of love. I don't feel that that's possible. You know, sort of, if you have sort of an ex-girlfriend or an ex-wife, at that point in time you did love them, and there's probably still a part of you down there somewhere that still cares for them, probably not in the same amount of love as before, but there is still some sort of love there, as in, like, sort of, my granddad has been dead like nearly 15 years now, and I still love him. But I've never been, you never come, I don't believe you ever fall out of love and think, I don't love you anymore. I feel there's still something inside you that still cares for people.
So what should one do about it?
One should, as I said, love the right people who give you the love back. Find someone who's, you know, who replicates what you give.
So what message would you give to the world, Chris?
Love is cruel and love can be hard, but love sometimes is a blessing.
Chris, once again, you're brilliant. Thank you. Tell us, why do people fall out of love?
People fall out of love for a variety of reasons. Normally they get bored with one another, or they get fed up, or one person gets fed up and the other person doesn't. It's normally quite sad, and if it happens, it happens. You can rekindle your love by learning to live with that person, or if you're friends with that person as well, which is even more important, then you'll find that the love will last for a lot longer.
So how should one go about it?
I would say that if you do get a partner or something, then try and be friends with them first before you fall in love with them completely. And then that way, when the love wears off, which it will do, then you'll remain friends for longer.
What message would you give to the world, Nigel?
I would say that value friendship more than the love bit, and the love will last.
Nigel, thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Tell us, why do people fall out of love?
I think people falling out of love can happen again because everyone is human throughout their lives. We're an evolving species in general, but each person evolves over time. Their experiences, there are so many different permutations as to why your life might change individually. Because your life changes, your priorities might change, they might no longer line up with the person that you thought you loved. Times that by two for the other person. Over time you may find yourselves growing apart. There can be affairs, there can be arguments, there can be destruction, there can be all manner of things. Unfortunately, I would say that falling out of love is human, purely because people change. You'd like to think that the person you're with will be with you forever. That may not be the case. It's just something humans have to deal with.
So what can one do about it?
I suppose to start with, the first thing would be to obviously make sure you're with the right person. Love, I think there was a quotation that said love is a fickle thing, and it can be. Beyond that, people change, as I just said. There is something to be said for changing together, between you, talking things through. Communication is huge. You need to know what the other person's thinking, what they think the relationship is, where it's going, what you're going to do. Once you're communicating, you can then make plans. Those plans may be to split up. They may be to reform your relationship. You may come out the other side stronger. But at the end of the day, communication is probably the biggest thing. Beyond communication, it might be irreparable. At that point, both of you have to make a conscious decision whether you keep the relationship going with the risk of more harm to both of you. You may be able to patch it up. No one knows. It's entirely up to the people concerned whether they're going to give it a go and see if things can be recovered. And finally, after that's all happened, if it's all gone badly wrong, you need to keep going. Life is bigger than one person, your life specifically, so pick yourself up, continue, and enjoy life.
So what message would you give to the world?
Again, I would say that love is hugely important in life. You need to be happy. Love is part of that, but it needs to be healthy at the same time. So think about your actions, think about your life, think about your relationship, think about the person you're with, and make sure you're enjoying it. If you're not, try and change it, make it better, and have a lovely time.
Edward, that was brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Tell us, why do people fall out of love?
Yeah, I think that we fall in love for different reasons, and we fall in love with people at different stages of our lives. So when you first fall in love with somebody, it can be quite raw. It's not always for the right reason. There could be other elements to that love, maybe a bit of lust, a bit of infatuation, and so that because maybe we don't fall in love with somebody for the right reasons, we fall out of love with them for the same sort of reasons, because we haven't gone in ready for the experience and mature enough to handle that love, and it's a two-way street as well. So I always feel that there's always a little bit of an imbalance in relationships, because I always think that somebody in that relationship loves the other person maybe a little bit more than the other person, and when you get that imbalance, it tends to show. So the person that is maybe loving more than the other person, they can feel a little bit jealous, and the other person may feel that it's a little bit overbearing. And like I say, when you get that imbalance, then that can spiral out of control, and you fall out of love with somebody just in the way that you fell in love with somebody. and that's just the cycle of life. We live, we die, we fall in love with somebody, we fall out of somebody. We can marry the love of our lives, and it can still end up the same way. And unfortunately, it can have repercussions for both parties. It can lead to depression. It can lead to some really vicious cycles and behaviours, and that's just the way life goes.
So what can one do about it?
So I think for me, the older I've got, I've fallen in love countless times in my life, and I look at all of those experiences as a lesson. And I think that's how people should take it. Don't think that the person that you fall in love with the first time is going to be maybe the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Think of it as this is how we're taking our relationship to the next step, and it may not last, but enjoy it while it lasts, and maybe it will. But I think when you start making those plans too early, and then you're kind of setting yourself up for a bit of a fall, and you fall in love, you fall out of love, and the pain that you endure can be quite great. So I think you have to just take it in stages, take it in steps, and have a natural progression, and then hopefully it will last. And if you fall out of love with somebody, try not to be too vicious and negative, and all those horrible breakups that we hear about. Try and take it as an experience that it didn't work out, and move on in an amicable way if you can.
Tom, once again, that was touching. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Sanjay.
As we come to the end of this episode, and we've been talking about falling out of love, and as we have seen that the process of falling in and out of love can make things confusing, and Scott Peck, the author of The Road Less Traveled, puts it beautifully when he says, falling in love is specifically a sex-linked erotic experience. We do not fall in love with our children, even though we may love them very deeply. We do not fall in love with our friends of the same sex unless we are homosexually oriented, even though we may care for them greatly. We fall in love only when we are consciously or unconsciously sexually motivated. The second problem is that the experience of falling in love is invariably temporary. No matter whom we fall in love with, we sooner or later fall out of love if the relationship continues long enough. This is not to say that we invariably cease loving the person with whom we fell in love with, but it is to say that the feeling of certain lovingness that characterizes the experience of falling in love always passes. The honeymoon always ends. The bloom of romance always fades.